Welcome to a self-published author's diary. I am Elodie Novodatsky. I write about first time, second chances, things that scare the crap out of me, and things that make me laugh out loud. I'll be speaking with you and sharing my adventures in self-publishing, the behind the scenes of writing, and the business side of it. And before we get started today, a small message from our sponsor, Anchor. Thanks for listening. Hello, it is it is January 23rd, Sunday, and I'm recording this episode during the afternoon with Plato the dog snoring away next to me, and Bobby Voltaire the cat actually straight next to me, also sleeping. He's being adorable right now in a cuddle bug, and I'm not complaining. So I'm keeping the schedule of recording the podcast over the weekend. I'm going to talk about two different things. I'm going to quickly talk about Billions, the TV show, and then I am going to share with you what I'm learning and what I'm doing when it comes to dipping my toe into the TikTok world. First of all, we just finished watching season 5 of Billions. I'm going to need to do a deep dive arc analysis of the first 5 seasons. At some point I will. Because as we were watching the last season, I was also listening to Take Off Your Pants, Outline Your Books for Faster, Better Writing by Libbie Hawker. I was also thinking about the flaws, like the character flaws and arc and everything storytelling related. We watched the first 5 seasons rather quickly. We both got really invested, and that's 5 seasons worth of episodes. That's a lot of episodes. And that's why maybe rapid release works so well for certain books, because you really get into something, or you really get into an author's works and you can't stop reading their books. I mean, I've done that too with certain authors or certain genres. Like I had a Julia Quinn Regency romance binge reading fast a couple of years ago. And then I moved on to Tessa Dare, and then I could not stop reading. And then I read Vanessa Riley and others. I mean, it's just, something that I get very invested into the different storyline and then into the writing. And so Billions has done that for me with the characters. And that's why I think at some point I want to do a deep dive into the arc and the story structure, especially because I'm learning different methods like Take Off Your Pants. Even though certain plot threads and maybe characters seemed a bit off in season 5 to me, but even with that, I'm still was very invested in all of the characters. So between watching Billions and listening to the audiobook, I'm also going back to my manuscripts with more of a focus, I think, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm actually planning to go back to the loose outline that I have, for the coming chapters of my books and kind of reworking them a little bit. Because what I like with Take Off Your Pants is that she mentioned that there are still certain things that you can discover as you write, which is, as I've mentioned last week, is something that I do a lot. I do a lot of discovery when I'm writing. And since now I have one of the antagonists that's more nailed down for Sweets for Love, I think it's going to be easier for me to figure out what happens next and actually be quicker at writing a draft that will still need work, but will not need as much rearranging as I sometimes need to do. Very excited about all of this. And in addition to adding, that method to my writing toolbox, I'm also dipping my toe into book talk. I know. Another social media platform. Elodie, what are you thinking? Especially since, let's face it, I already have a hard time keeping up with other social media platform. But it's part of a structured plan of being more organized with my social media presence, while not losing writing time and also keeping a certain balance. Yes, I know. I'm going for the unicorn here, but I'm enjoying the process of creating those videos, which is a plus. When it comes to TikTok, I've been lurking here and there for several months, really using it to see the development of Bridgerton the musical And I also watch videos from the musical world. I mean, some actors are putting up, information about their auditions and how it works. Some of people are just so talented, and that's the videos I'm watching. And I've decided it was time to maybe check out more of the book talk and writer talk world. In September 2021, TikTok announced, and I'm quoting here, "Today we're celebrating that mission and our global TikTok community. More than 1 billion people around the world now come to TikTok every month." That's a lot of people. So a few facts about my TikTok account. If you want to follow me, it's at Elodie Nowodatsky. Again, Nowodatsky is NOWODAZKIJ. I started my TikTok account in May 2021, and my first videos were actually about Bobby Voltaire the cat and Plato the dog, and it was their reactions when the chemical engineer went off to the fire station for the first time as a volunteer. So, staying overnight at the station and in his firefighter uniform. And I don't have the chemical engineer on video for that particular video, but I do have, the dog looking at the door, looking all sad and thinking, where is he going? Where is he now? Because the dog just barks pretty much all the time when one of us is not home. Whenever there's a little noise outside, he starts barking and he looks all sad and he waits on the couch. And during that time, Bobby Voltaire, the cat, is a cat. So he was just running up and down the stairs doing his thing. So they were not book or writing related. They did gather hundreds of views and dozens of likes, and I did get some followers. Then I basically posted once in a while, and my views went up and down. I reached about 70 followers and then plateaued. A couple of weeks ago, I thought, okay, well, let's learn a little bit more about what other authors are doing. And here I have a disclaimer / full disclosure before I continue into that particular topic, because I think I want to make clear that being on social media doesn't guarantee more visibility or sales. I'm pretty sure there are plenty of authors who are not on social media and making a living by mastering other means of reaching their readers. N.S. Johnson comes to mind. When we had our chat last year, she mentioned not being on social media a lot, and she still made a living out of her writing. She had masters Facebook ads, I think also Amazon ads. I mean, she was definitely finding ways to reaching her readers. She's also wide. And then I also remembered that the book We Were Liars started showing back up on the bestseller lists in 2021, even though it was a book that was published in 2014. And I read a New York Times article entitled How Crying on TikTok Sells Books by Elizabeth A. Harris. And that's a quote from the article. We Were Liars came out in 2014. So when the book's author, E. Lockhart, saw that it was back on the bestseller list last summer, she was delighted and confused. I had no idea what the hell was happening, she said. Lockhart's children filled her in. It was because of TikTok. The New York Times article highlights that a video about We Were Liars by the account A Life of Literature run by two sisters, Mireille Lee and Elodie, both teenagers, in the UK had been viewed more than 5 million times. Many Barnes & Noble locations around the United States have set up book talk tables displaying titles like They Both Die at the End, The Cruel Prince, A Little Life, and others that have gone viral. And here I stopped quoting from the article, and I just want to say that no, you don't need to be crying or dancing or lip singing for a video to take off. I mean, there are quite a few articles explaining how people's books, authors' books, have taken off or sold more copies than before without those different videos. As with everything, being on TikTok equal to being read by hundreds of thousands of readers. Yeah, Lockhart didn't know why her book got viral, so it's not like she posted something and then it just took off. And then We Were Liars was already a bestseller years ago. So there are big authors, already big authors, who are getting their backlist rediscovered. But for many, that backlists were already selling very well prior. It's just being rediscovered. And yes, of course, there are books and authors who get discovered on TikTok, but I'm going in with expectations in check mostly. Because there are authors who are also wondering, is it the best use of my time? I'm also going into the TikTok world because I enjoy the creative process and the fun of doing those videos. And that's important to me. So I'm not putting time into something that I loathe. And I have a much healthier relationship with social media than I did a couple of years ago. And that's important because I know my boundaries and I know the boundaries I need to set when it comes to my use of social media. And B, in my view, social media needs to be incorporated in a way that works for me, you, people on several levels, so business and personal. And I mentioned personal here because, as I've said, I have a much healthier relationship now with social media than I did a couple of years ago, because I think that sometimes spending time on social media can affect your anxiety levels and it can also suck you in. So, I mean, it's important to me to make sure that I keep those boundaries in place. That's why I just want to reiterate that for me, I'm trying this because I'm not seeing it as a time suck, and I'm also seeing it as maybe useful, and I'm also having fun with it. So with that out of the way, that's why I still decided to dip my toe into TikTok. And right now I'm deciding how long to spend each week or each day on the platform. And for the past week, I posted quite a bit, about once, sometimes twice a day. I joined several groups, such as Authors of TikTok and TikTok for Authors on Facebook. Mark Dawson was doing a TikTok for Authors challenge with the basics of setting up your account, how to do it and tips on how to do video. I already knew some of that, but the discussion in the Facebook group is interesting. And I'm learning from other authors, and there are some ideas about what to post and others, and just a community of writers doing the same thing, trying to do the same thing and to achieve the same goals. I also found there that there was, in one of the groups, I think it was the TikTok for Authors with the challenge, there was a link for a Clubhouse discussion that happens every Thursday at 1 p.m. with Lila Dubois and Jen Rylan. And I'll add the link to the challenge to my episode description, so then you can find the Clubhouse discussion link as well. And there's also, if you haven't listened to it, there's a self-publishing show episode with Mark Dawson entitled How to Sell More Books Using TikTok with Lila Dubois and Jane Rylan. I'm also adding that link to my episode's description. And in it, for example, Jane explains she gave a coupon code to her direct shop on TikTok, and that resulted in $500 in sales in one weekend. And that was not from a viral video, this was from an average number of views. And then they both go into more details about what they've learned about using the platform. They also have a class, which I have not taken, Romancing TikTok, which is not limited to romance authors, but is also about learning more about how TikTok could help sell books. I'm putting the link in case you're interested in learning more about it. I have been in the Ads for Authors course, the one, from Mark Dawson, since last year. And he has a TikTok module coming up that will be available to all. And I think that's also with Lila and Jane. So once I read more, participated in the discussion, I posted 8 videos last week on TikTok. Some took me 15 minutes to make or less. Some took me 45 minutes, way too long for my taste. But those are ones that I will definitely be able to post on my website as well, on Facebook and on YouTube as a video, not as a link. And they're about my audiobook, so with the excerpts from the audiobook, and I did it in Canva. So that's one of the videos, for example. Others, I will just be able to next week use on Instagram. My results within 1 week, they're not astronomical. I did not gain thousands of followers and did not have hundreds of sales. But I did gain 70 new followers within a week, and I have more consistent likes, and I'm having fun with it. And it's helping me to find ways to talk more about books and to talk about books and writing with a different mindset and creative outlet, which might be helpful for other social media platforms as well. And I'm still learning. And the Clubhouse discussion every week is awesome to ask questions and listen to what others are doing, what's working for them, and also the doubts that other authors have about the platform. Because as I've said before, this is not a yes, you're on the platform and suddenly you're going to have hundreds of thousands of sales. It's also about learning what works, what doesn't, and maybe realizing if the platform is for you. But their goal, I think, and that's what they were explaining during one of the discussions, is that to really teach people how to use it so that the barrier is not the technology of the platform. So the challenge for authors was a lot about that it was about learning, how to set up your account, how to do certain things. There are tips about using the inverted filter so that your book cover actually shows up with, when you're doing the selfie with your camera, you can also do the inverted filter and then your book shows up with the writing that the viewer can actually read. So that inverts the letters. So that's some things, that I'm learning on the groups. And those are things that I didn't know before. And I want to focus on being more consistent with social media for at least a month. So not only on TikTok, I want to be more consistent on Instagram, on Facebook, on my blog, not on Twitter. I'm not going to add Twitter too much to my social media right now. I am on Twitter. I'm at enovodatsky if you want to follow me there, but it's pretty much not. I'm not super active on Twitter just because I don't have the time, and I want to focus on certain things that I think work best for me because I don't want to let it take over my writing time. So one thing I really wanted to do and to achieve with TikTok was to reach my French-speaking audience. And unfortunately, that might be harder than what I thought. According to TikTok, one of the aspects of the For You page recommendation is your geolocation. In a press release on June 18th, 2020, how TikTok recommends videos for you, they explained that user interaction and video information do play a role, but so does, and I quote here, device and account settings like your language preference, country setting, and device type. These factors are included to make sure the system is optimized for performance, but they receive lower weight in the recommendation system relative to other data points we measure since users don't actively express these as preferences. End quote. So even if I use different hashtags that are directed to a French-speaking audience, well, since I'm located in the US, it most probably won't reach them as well. Unless my IP was in France or my SIM card was a French one or I asked someone to manage a French account for me, which at this stage I'm not planning on doing. I'm not planning to have a social manager in France. I don't have the resources for it. The geographic reach distribution of a video I did for the French version of A Summer Like No Other, for example, was 87% of the viewers were in the US, 4% in Canada, no idea if it was French-speaking Canada, 4% in the UK, 4% in France, and 1% in the Netherlands. The next video in English, the geographic reach distribution was 52% of the viewers were in the US, 28% in the UK, 4% in Canada, 4% in the Netherlands, and 2% in Ireland. So one thing I do love about TikTok is their statistics dashboard. I don't have a business account with @ElodieNovodatsky. I am mostly doing, writing things, updates. One video is about Plato looking outside of the window, and I compare it to my outline and my characters doing things that I didn't ask them to do. And I do share excerpts of audiobooks and things like that. I did do, for The Leftover Bride, I had a TikTok account during the time of the release that I did a business account for, because that one I felt was more about selling a product. So that's why I did a business account. But I guess we'll see how everything develops on that side. And by posting more in French, I don't know then what it might do to my algorithm, because the French-speaking audience in the US is not that huge. So is that going to hamper my other videos in English? I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do. I don't know if I should try to use my tablet. I have no idea. So that's one thing that I'm still looking into. A few things that I'm trying to do and want to organize this week is, one, actually have social media on my calendar in a way to be more consistent with it and also to not stretch the time I'm on it. Talking about the boundaries I've mentioned before. For example, if I have 15-20 minutes set for Instagram on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, then that's it. And during that time, I need to A, post, and also B, interact with people. If I do, let's say, 30 minutes of TikTok every day for a week, then that's it. And it can be split into 2 sessions of 15 minutes. I read somewhere that some authors use that as, use social media as a break between writing sessions. So that's also something that I'm looking at. 2, find themes that I can replicate week after week. For example, I can post about Plato Bobby on Mondays, do WIP Wednesday, Work in Progress Wednesday, or Writing Wednesday, and then Flashback Friday. I think it was Elana Johnson in her book who mentioned that finding a system that works for you is so helpful and also lets your followers know what to expect. 3, figure out when to launch my pen name on the platform. I think that I want to have the book up for pre-order before I do, and I want to have videos ready to go before I do as well. The interesting part about the pen name is that I'm not planning to show my face at this time. If I don't show my face at all, then that takes away some of the fun of lip-syncing videos I do enjoy doing. But this is also, I think, the way I want to go for the pen name. So I don't know. I still have a few things to, as you can tell, figure out when it comes to the launch of my pen name. And then, are you on TikTok? Let me know by following me and dropping a comment on one of my videos. That would be awesome. I also do have a TikTok for the podcast, but I don't post very regularly there either. And I'm deciding whether I should combine the two. I'm just not quite sure on how to combine those different things and if I should combine them within the same account when it comes to the podcast and my books. So many variables and still a few decisions to make. But the focus right now is on my @Elodie Novodatsky account. Novodatsky again is NOWODSDOGAZKIJ. I'll keep you updated on how it works. And next week, I'll be back with a monthly recap talking about the things I did each week to help my royalties, the hurdles when it comes to publishing some of my bilingual audiobooks, a possible Italian contract, and more. And in a couple of weeks, I might do that Billions character arc analysis. As always, if you have any questions about indie publishing, my writing, or my books, don't hesitate to send me an email, author@elodienovodatsky@gmail.com, or by leaving me a voicemail. The link is in the episode description. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support it by subscribing, reviewing it, sharing it, or becoming a monthly supporter. Or if you like romance, by purchasing, reviewing, and recommending my books and audiobooks. Thank you so much for listening, and to all writers out there, happy writing, and to everyone, happy reading.